talking about technical difficulties that I'm having today. But we won't go there yet. But I know Comic Palooza is happening this weekend for everybody in the Houston area, and I do hope to see y'all there. Not just shout me out. I'll be wearing my cowboy hat and doing interviews for the show there. So look for me for sure. But today we are with Rich Davis, who is a author, comic book writer, and I tell you, he's got a lot coming up that y'all are going to want to pay attention to. And who knows, y'all might even see him around someday soon.
Yeah.
So Rich, tell us about your comic book and what it's about.
Yeah, so my first comic was called Cult of Dracula from SourcePoint Press. It was a top 50 best-selling comic of 2021, and we take the original Dracula story and we reimagine it inside of a Manson family-inspired cult. So that came out in 2021. The sequel, Rise of Dracula, all 6 issues are currently out now in comic book stores everywhere. The trade paperback for Rise comes out 2 weeks from now. So the last Wednesday of July. And Rise is a direct sequel to Cult. And it looks at, it's essentially a near future dystopia where vampires, Dracula takes over the country and decides the only way to save humanity is to reduce humans down to a manageable number for labor, food, breeders, and pets. And if you don't fall into one of those categories, well, you're not productive and you're just recycled and bad things happen to you. We really didn't get too far in depth into what happens to those people, but yeah, Rise was essentially built off of the idea: what if Agent Smith was right? What if humanity is a virus destroying the world? And so looking at it through the lens of uber powerful vampires who are able to take action on that, it was really fun. It was really fun to tell the story in a different way than we told the Cult story.
Very nice. And how did you get started in all this? A lot of people like to get started and stuff. How did you get started?
Completely by accident. No, not really. So I've always wanted to be a writer, but I never really thought I could make a career out of it. So I did everything but. I worked in radio, I worked in film, I worked in television, I worked for a newspaper, I worked for Verizon. I've owned a theater, I've owned a bar, I own a comic book store. I've even been a paid campaign staffer on 2 presidential campaigns. So my life's been a lot of things, but it's never been boring. So I wrote Cult of Dracula originally as a stage play back in 2013. It was produced at the Browncoat Pub and Theater in Wilmington, North Carolina. Very successful, ran for a month of sold out shows, and was nominated for several North Carolina Theater Awards, won a few. And so when that was finished, I wanted to do something different with it. So I set out to adapt it into a screenplay. At the time, my background was mostly in screenwriting. I did a lot of script doctor work on for other people who had problems with their scripts and needed a fresh set of eyes on it. So I did that for a while. Some things happened. Unfortunately, my wife became very ill with kidney disease. She ultimately passed away in 2020. So I wasn't able to continue working on Cult of Dracula as a screenplay because there's no way I could put the time and resources into making a movie while she was dealing with these very extreme health issues. So being truthfully honest, I gave up on it. I actually deleted it so that I wouldn't be tempted to go back and do something else with it. And my wife, Amber, she got so ridiculously off at me. I mean, she has never in my life yelled at me the way she yelled at me when I deleted all of the Cult of Dracula resources. And, she's like, no, you can't give this up. Not just because I'm sick. I understand we can't make a movie, but we can do something else with it. And luckily she had a PDF copy of the script that I had sent her to review. And she's like, well, so we can't do a movie. Why don't you try to do it as a comic book? I knew Georges Genti, artist from Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Serenity, and Of course, he's out this week with Mandalorian #1. He did the art in that. So he was a friend. And so she said, reach out to Georges, get his opinion, see what he thinks, and see where we can go. So it was the best advice my wife ever gave me, and she gave me a hell of a lot of good advice. So I called Georges, and he was originally going to do the art, but then, I don't know, some company with an M, they got a bunch of movies out now, but they wanted me to do some book about these weird guys with an X on their chest that get powers or something. I don't know. Some crappy little book, X-Men, I think it was. So Georges ended up doing that, but he introduced me to his childhood friend, Henry Martinez. Henry had worked on Ghost Rider, Blade, Spirits of Vengeance, things like that for Marvel. He was a Larry Hama kid, grew up working for Larry. And so Henry came on board, and he did the first 2 issues of Cult for me. Life being what it is, COVID being what it was, Henry got hit very hard by COVID, and he couldn't continue with the book. So we switched over to Puis Calzada, and Puis has continued the art from Cult 3 all the way through. He'll be on all the books up until Reign 6, which the final book in the series called Reign of Dracula. It'll be coming out soon. So yeah, it was kind of a long and convoluted trip to get here, involving a lot of moxie and insisting that people who had no business even knowing that I existed sit down and give me 10, 15 minutes of their time to talk. But once I had them, once we were talking, the interest just kind of built itself. We have a good product, we have a good story. It's very well put together, and thankfully my publisher, SourcePoint Press, agrees, and 250,000 plus readers out there also agree, because it's been selling ridiculously well. All 6 issues of Cult sold out at the distributor level. All but 2 issues of Rise are completely sold out at the distributor level. The Cult trade paperback has been sold out at the distributor level for about 4 months now, and the Rise trade paperback doesn't even release for 2 weeks, and it's already sold out at the distributor level. So we've got something here.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. Now, going through all this, and it's actually optioned to be a movie currently.
Television series, yes.
Television series, is that? Yeah, we actually have a question. Did you do Kickstart?
We did not do a Kickstarter. I was very close to doing Kickstarter, but because I thought we weren't going to get a publisher, because COVID happened right when I was shopping this. And so we had very strong interest from 3 publishers, and all 3 of them, when Diamond shut down comic deliveries in 2020, they all 3 were like, we still want to do this, but we don't know when we can get to it. We don't even know if we're going to be making comics. So I kind of went into a crisis mode and like, oh shit, what am I going to do? And I was like, well, I can put it up on Kickstarter. I can sell 5 copies. I know my mom's going to buy 3 of them, so we'll be good. But as luck would have it, like literally 2-3 days before we went live with the Kickstarter, I got a call from Second Sight Studios. They were the company that originally released Cult #1. So I decided it was better to go with a publisher rather than go the Kickstarter route. And then, crazy enough, again, this story, I feel like Billy Mays, but wait, there's more, because I should write a book about just making this damn book. Because Cult of Dracula #1 from Second Sight Publishing sold so many copies that Second Sight could not afford to print the second issue. It's none of their fault. They're great people to work with. I have nothing but good things to say about them, but they were new. They didn't have the distribution. They didn't have the infrastructure. So they just couldn't handle. Nobody in the world, even myself, we never expected Cult of Dracula #1 from an unknown studio and an unknown writer to come out of the gate and sell 15,000 copies. I mean, that's a ridiculous number for any comic book these days, but for an indie book, that's insane. So ultimately we ended up going to SourcePoint Press, and that's been the best move that I could have possibly made. SourcePoint's a fantastic company. They take great care of me. They support my book, and everything they've ever promised me, they've given me. And I can't see the name of the Facebook user who said they would love to help out if we do a Kickstarter. Okay, hit me up, send me a DM, because we're actually about to launch a Kickstarter to do something really cool based off of the comic. We're looking to expand into tabletop role-playing games, and so we're going to take that to Kickstarter to do that. So yeah, hit me up, man. I would love to hear from you, and always appreciate the help. And the biggest help you can do is go to your local comic book store and ask them to order the trade paperback for Rise of Dracula. That's the new one coming out. And I highly encourage all of you. You can get it on Amazon, you can get it on Target, whatever. But I highly encourage you to go to your local comic book shops, because I can promise you I would not be here today without the support of some amazing local comic book shop owners. They're the backbone of this industry. So yeah, please, if you want to support me, support your local comic book shop first. And then after that, please help me, because God, I need it.
I think we all do in some sort of perspective. It doesn't matter. And here we go. Are you free October 22nd? I knew that one was going to be coming.
Honestly, I don't know. You can reach out to us on Facebook, and my publicist, Lori, will get back to you. Without Lori, I wouldn't know where the hell I'm going. I mean, I did 23 conventions and shows last year, and I think I've done 16 so far this year. So without Lori telling me where to go and when to be there, I'd be lost in an airport somewhere, just wandering around. It'd be like Tom Hanks in that movie, you know?
Wow, I hadn't thought about that movie in a long time.
I know. It's an underrated, but it's Tom Hanks. I mean, you got to love anything with Tom Hanks in it.
True. Very true.
And I'm sorry, you asked me a question before the user popped in and asked. I don't remember what it was, though.
There we go. I've been to 17.
17. Yeah. Wow. You're rocking it like I have been, man.
Yeah, it's a busy world out here. There are a ton in Texas. Trust me. Trust me. But now I got to recall what I was asking.
TV series.
Movie.
Yeah, the TV series. So yes, the book Cult of Dracula has been optioned by Sure Pictures. It's currently in development. We actually moved from the maybe this has been optioned to the holy shit, we're making a TV series phase. It's officially on IMDb right now. If you're IMDb Pro, you can see a lot more of the details on it. But just for regular users, just go to IMDb and search for Cult of Dracula, and you'll find some great information about it. So we have moved into that phase. The TV series is going to be a prequel of sorts to Cult of Dracula. It's going to follow Special Agent Malcolm Brahm. He's an FBI agent, kind of like a Scully. He's skeptical, but he's open to the idea that there's weird things out there. Mm-hmm. So the FBI sends him to investigate all the weird crimes. So the TV show is going to follow him investigating these strange murders and all the things that an FBI agent would look into. But as he does that, he's going to be slowly introduced to the fact that there's this cult. The Bureau is covering it up. The media is covering it up. And then he'll discover things about vampires, and this whole conspiracy thing will unfold as we watch the TV show. And then by about the third season of the show, provided we're lucky enough to get that far, the third season would end with the event that launches Cult of Dracula. Because in Cult of Dracula, Brahm is the first person we meet. He's been called to investigate this thing that they're calling the Cult of Dracula mass suicide. And it's like Jonestown. But when he gets there, it's really clear really quickly, this was no suicide. Some really, really bad things happened. And so Brahm then in earnest begins looking into the cult and the conspiracy. And so that's where the story goes. So the TV show is going to be a prequel. And then we are about to launch in early 2023. We're launching an animated film from 6S1 Studios that will be a direct adaptation of Cult of Dracula. So 6S1, they're taking the book and they're going to animate it, and we're going to fully voice act it. I really wish I could let you guys know the names of the voice actors that we're communicating with right now. Unfortunately, contracts aren't finalized, so I can't. But what I can tell you is we're going to be pulling actors that you'll recognize from television series such as The Outer Banks, One Tree Hill, Dawson's Creek, Six, and some other names in the horror world that you're going to recognize really fast. One of the people that we're talking to don't know because we don't know where the show's going, but a featured character on The Boys. So we're going to have some names that are going to be voice acting this animated comic, and it's going to be great. I'm honestly a little more excited about the animated adaptation than I am the TV series, mostly because the animated thing is happening really, really fast, and the TV series, Hollywood moves very, very slowly until it doesn't.
Yeah, we discussed that a little bit before the show. What story are you most excited about? Well,
wow, that's a great question, because I do have I've got a couple of other things. So Cult of Dracula, the success of Cult of Dracula has allowed me to pursue opportunities to tell other stories. And that's kind of the way this business works. It's just like working in film. It's really, 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 really hard to get your first job, but then after that, it's really, 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 really easy to get your next job. So I'm finishing up Reign of Dracula, which completes the trilogy, and Cult of Dracula is like a Tobe Hooper, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Southern Gothic film. Rise of Dracula is more of a John Carpenter near future dystopia. And by the time we get to Reign of Dracula, it's full on George Miller, Mad Max. The world is fucked. That's where we are. I mean, it's the Battle of Armageddon. It's Ragnarok. It's everything all rolled into one.
Waterworld.
Yeah, exactly. It's an underrated movie, by the way. We might have to.
I agree with that.
Talk about that. So after that, next year, I've got another book coming out called Prometheus in Chains. I think it's probably the one that I'm most excited about right now, because it's a reimagining of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein set in the post-World War II atomic age. Victor Frankenstein is one of the German scientists who fled the Reich and came to the U.S. to help the Allies work on the Manhattan Project, which happened to be right down the road from me in Oak Ridge, Tennessee. So I'm going to set it in Oak Ridge, and Victor helps create the bomb. And like Oppenheimer, he quickly begins to believe that he is creating the thing that will one day destroy the world. But there's a twist. Again, Billy Mays here, but wait, there's more. Victor also discovers that every time an atomic bomb detonates, it opens a window to another dimension or another world. Victor's wife, Elizabeth, was a very brilliant scientist who also worked on the Manhattan Project, and she died because of things that happened. And so Victor is now obsessed with finding a world where he died and Elizabeth survived, and he intends to go to that world and just, live there. Prometheus in Chains is going to be a deep, dark, visceral, real, and raw exploration of grief and PTSD, which unfortunately is something I know a lot about intimately because of when and how my wife passed away. I struggle with PTSD. So if you guys are listening out there and you are having mental health issues, I don't want to turn this into a PSA, but just know that you're not alone. And there are people you can reach out to. I'm one of them. I don't know you. I don't need to know you. But if you're struggling, if you're suffering, message me. I'll answer, I promise. And there are a lot of people out there that will do that. So in Prometheus in Chains, I get to really wrap my arms around that grief and explore it. The creature becomes a metaphor for grief, and also a metaphor for the bomb, or the bomb is a metaphor for the creature in this book. So that's probably, long winding way of answering your question. Prometheus in Chains is probably the one I'm most excited about right now.
Excellent. And trust me, I can feel your pain. So I'm actually one of those people you can reach out to, and I will talk to you as well, because I've been through pretty much the exact same thing he has, except mine was, of course, just most recently that most of y'all know about.
Yeah.
I think we actually answered that one earlier. Who does your artwork?
Yeah, so the interior artwork in Cult of Dracula is first two issues were Henry Martinez. The issues 3 through Rise 6 are also all 9 of those issues are Puis Calzada. Jordan Dorenzo is doing my art for Prometheus in Chains. I've worked with a bevy of brilliant cover artists. So if you see the cover art for Cult or Rise of Dracula, I have been so blessed and so fortunate to work with literally some of the best in the business. A covers for Cult of Dracula. I'm just going to do the main covers because there's too many variants to list. But the A covers were done by Gyula Nemeth. He's out of Budapest, Hungary. Shannon Mayer did the B covers for Cult. Shannon's a brilliant artist. Kayla Valero did the A covers for Rise of Dracula. Jordan Dorenzo did the B covers. And then for Reign of Dracula, Les Lyndon Garner is doing the A covers. He's got this brilliant connecting cover set that he's doing. It's fantastic. And Maria Key out of Indonesia, who is so brilliant and trying to immigrate to the U.S. and I hope she gets to. But she's going to do the B covers for Reign of Dracula. We've not assembled the cover artists for Prometheus yet, but we'll be announcing that in the next several weeks.
And one thing, because I know I'm going to definitely be trying to get you back on for the Con Hour, which will be an hour-long show for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And let's get this last one over with. Last question, people, have you thought about writing a book about your PTSD? I did, and it really helped me. Maybe one day we'll let people read it.
I think that's a brilliant idea. One thing I've learned in therapy, and I am a big proponent of therapy for people who suffer from mental health issues. I mean, if you broke your arm, nobody would blink twice if you went to a doctor and got a cast. So if you're hurting emotionally or mentally, we need to normalize and destigmatize going to therapy. I'm a big proponent of therapy, but my therapist has helped me learn that the easiest way, the most effective way for me to process is to write about it. That's how I communicate through words. So Prometheus in Chains is kind of what you're talking about. It's that book about my PTSD. I would not be opposed to one day doing a narrative prose book about dealing with PTSD. And I'm so proud to see that you did write that book, and I hope that you will let people read it because it just might help somebody, and it obviously helped you.
But anyway, everyone, I will be at Comic Palooza this weekend. And Tuesday, we are giving away our last set of tickets for Terror Isle Escape Room in Texas City. So be sure to participate if you want to take part in their escape room. But like I said, be at Comic Palooza. Our next show will be Tuesday. I'll have another conversation tomorrow at 11 a.m. Central Time. Might check on those times, but should be tomorrow at 11 a.m. And then after that, I'll be going to Comic Palooza to get my media pass and probably get on the floor and do a few videos before the show so everybody can see where everything's going to be located at, hopefully. And I will see everyone tomorrow at 11 a.m. And we do look forward to having you on the show again.
Anytime.
And until